Mortuary Assistant. I did not know that I found the creepy white demon guy so disturbing. Completely, I was not expecting that. I'm like, I am a dyed-in-the-wool horror fan, and you got me, man. That was great.
Hi, everybody. Welcome on into another episode of Behind the Voice. I'm joined by the wonderful Melissa Medina. She has played in so many games, but the game that I have recognized her the most, and because it's a horror game that I love horror games, that is Mortuary Assistant. But she's been incredible in so many other games. So thank you so much for taking the time. Thank you so much for joining.
Absolutely. I'm always very curious about what games speak to what people, and I like being surprised. Like, don't tell me what your favorite one is. Just let me guess. Let me guess. So, yeah, no, Mortuary Assistant. Yes, that's one of my faves.
Oh wow, that's cool. Yeah, Mortuary Assistant
Mhm.
was incredible for me, and I know so many of my friends played it, and they all pooped their pants when they're playing it. So yeah, it was a great experience for everybody.
Uh-huh. Yep, I love that. Brian, the developer, is probably just sitting back in a chair somewhere, just like, yes,
We did it.
perfect.
That's exactly what we want. They probably had a grudge against someone, and they're like, "We gotta do this." I mean, but no, it's such a good game, and we'll get to that. But I just wanted to know, like, I know you've been doing you're doing so many video games and a few games that are still about to come out. So how has been this year been so far? You're halfway there already.
I know. I don't even wanna think about that. I it's been really good, though. The time goes by so fast, you know?
Yeah.
It's been really good, actually. I think, I feel like, I'm in the Midwest, so for me, most of the work is on the coast. It's LA, New York, mostly LA, and, sometimes it can be a struggle, to be in the middle of the country and people going, "Wait, what time is it there? Where are you? Why? Why are you in Minnesota?" Um, but yeah, so, it's been really good, though. I think we've reached a really good point where, there's plenty of work to do in LA, and then every now and then when they want, some flavor or something different, they'll come to me and I get to do cool stuff in video games, like yell at people. That's one of my favorites.
That's so cool. No, I mean, working in video games, in so many video games that you have done so far, like it must be, I don't know, when I hear it, because I'm not obviously an actor, but when I hear it and the work that you've done, I assume that it must be super like exhausting and stressful at the same time. So how do you keep kind of yourself motivated in after doing work and everything? How do you keep yourself motivated or creativity? How does that all flow through you?
Tons of caffeine. No, I was kidding. Well, no, 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 that's a part of it. Caffeine and, in general, just, finding a really good, way to, like, section out my day a little
Mhm.
bit, because it's very easy as a voice actor to just be stuck in your like, I'm in my studio right now, right? And it's very easy to just be stuck there and forget what time it is and, like, what even is daylight and, it gets it gets a little gnarly. So, like, having a good schedule in place really helps, you know? Do I stick to it? Not really, but it's really helpful when you
Yeah.
do it, when you adult properly. But yeah, so, for energy, for things like that, I have a system in place for myself. Like, I will like, if I have a comedic role, I have a whole playlist of videos that just make me laugh, or, I look at the memes that my friends send me, and I gotta get in the zone for that, you know? When I need to do dramatic roles, I just don't have any coffee, and then it's perfect.
That's
Uh,
that's great. That's wonderful.
I'm just grumpy, so it works. Yeah, so, like, I think over time you learn, like, your triggers and the stuff that you need to reliably recreate, like, certain emotions or certain moods or something like that, and then sometimes they'll stop working, so you kinda have to find new things to, help. And for me, like, I love horror movies. I
Oh,
love sci-fi movies. So, yeah, so for me, at the end of a hard day, I'm gonna go, sit on the couch, turn off my brain, and watch some horror movies, and that helps, like, recharge me.
That's beautiful.
Yeah, I'll be dead asleep on the couch, and there's, like, screaming in the background, it's weird, but yeah.
Hey, that makes the two of us because I love horror movies. I love, to be honest, I
Hey,
love
nice!
watching anything horror. I'm a weirdo who goes on YouTube and search for horror stuff, and sometimes my mom is like, "That's why you get bad dreams." I'm like, "That's not the case," but it's just like I just love horror so
Yeah,
much. The stories, and there's some YouTube channels that I keep on
mhm.
watching. Or go to, I will explore this place, which is very haunted, and so I watch it even though there's nothing haunted really, but I just watch. It's just fun
Yeah,
to hopefully see something. But
exactly.
in terms of horror movies, do you have like any favorites, top fives maybe?
Mm, man, it's really hard to don't make me choose.
Well, maybe
If
your
I usually
favorites,
go
I
by
guess.
directors. Can I cheat and say I go by directors?
100%.
'Cause, um, there's 2 that I love and I will watch anything they ever do, and that's John Carpenter
Oh,
and, Mike Flanagan. Those are
oh
my 2
yes, that's
absolute favorites. I started watching Mike Flanagan movies, like, after his first movie came out. I think it was, like, called In Absentia or something like
yeah,
that,
yeah, yeah.
and I watched it and I thought, or maybe Oculus, but I watched it and I was like, "This is, I don't even know what this is brilliant," and then he kept doing things, and then, he gets the Netflix shows and everything, and I'm like, "Good for him."
Good for him. Yeah,
He's
he's.
terrifying, but good for him.
Yeah, I love his movies
Yeah.
so it's so cool. I love it, and
Is he your favorite? Who's your favorite?
it's very hard to say a favorite. So hard to pick
Right?
a favorite. But it's you played the trick on me.
My, how the turntables.
My. Um, but I would probably I probably don't go by directors. I probably just go by movies. So if I had to,
Okay.
I don't know. It's very hard to pick favorites, but like I think the very first, because I didn't watch horror for a while because I was like too scared of horror, and then I decided to watch some things. But I think the first one that really got me scared, and it's very probably cliche, and everybody always tells us, and it was The Conjuring for the first time. Somehow got me.
Really? I
Yeah,
actually don't hear that very often.
really? I thought The Conjuring is like very common. Like, oh, it's Conjuring. Oh, sure, of course you don't watch horror movies. Like, I felt like that's how people would react. But like, I don't know.
Meh.
It wasn't. There was a particular. I remember watching it, and there was the moment when it's very end when the mom is almost going to be cleansed and everything was going to be good, and
Mhm.
she had this wail and a scream, and somehow that affected me. I was feeling very weird on my stomach. I was so weird, and I was like, I have to stop. And I
Oh.
was like, why? Like, out of every scene, why that? I could never figure that out. My sister was watching with me,
Ugh.
and she was like, what happened? I thought you watch horror movies. I'm like, I know, I have no idea. But it was very weird. But that
Don't
was
shame me.
don't
Yeah.
don't shame me. What is wrong with you? But yeah, that was the
You know,
only time I had that weird moment. But yeah, that's the movie I would say.
that's so interesting. You can never call what gets you, you know? Everybody has a thing that they
Yeah,
see in horror movies or even horror games too, that just makes them go, "Huh," you know? And
yeah,
sometimes you don't even know what that's gonna be until it happens, and then you go, "Oh, well, I learned something about myself today," you know?
yeah. That
Yeah,
that
like
was
like
weird.
Mortuary Assistant. I did not know that I found the creepy, white demon guy so disturbing. Completely I was not expecting that. I'm like, "I am a dyed-in-the-wool horror fan, and you got me, man." That was great.
Yeah, I saw a lot of people, and especially I didn't play the game first. I know a friend of mine who was streaming it, and when the guy
Mhm.
appeared, I was like, "What the hell is that?" And it was like, it was all of a sudden I was surprised by him. So everybody was surprised by him and scared by him. But that
Mhm.
game is filled with scares, and I cannot believe that that happened with that game. It's
Yeah.
so crazy. But
I know, he
yeah,
even has a plushie now.
oh my god, yes.
So,
Like,
if you love him.
sure, everybody will not be scared by him, but
Yeah.
oh man, it's that game has been so cool. Did you get to like? I believe you have watched a lot of scenes, but did you get to watch everything that the game has to offer?
I mostly just watched the endings because I was very curious. The way that I received the lines, it was non-linear, right? So
Hmm.
not even I really knew how things were going to end or what the endings were gonna be like. And I recorded the lines over, I don't even know, maybe a year and a half,
Wow.
2 years, no, something like that, a long time. And so by that time I just had, kind of totally forgotten what the other stuff was. And so when it came out, it was nice to see, like, there were some streamers that were kind enough to put together like all of the endings and stuff. So I watched it, and man, Brian did such a great job with that game for like one dude
Yeah.
sitting around like making this game. He was very sweet to work with as well. He was very like, you get to do whatever you want with this character. And not a lot of people, like, some people micromanage, and he was just like, hey, do what you want to do, make it good. And that was nice.
Wow, that's wonderful.
Yeah.
I believe that's a great way to do it. And to be honest, for him creating that game, it became so much popular. It's now, I think, it's like one of the games that you must play as a horror fan game. It's always lists in one of those top tens. So it's like very
Yeah.
wonderfully done, and I cannot believe that, because usually I played horror games. A lot of horror games come out, and a lot of horror games would
Hmm.
be sort of the similar. Most of them will be the same style, but this was very different, and
Hmm.
it dealt differently, and it was done differently, and was so unique and so scary at times. So I loved that, and loved every single thing about it. So did you get to play any of it at all?
I have actually.
Oh.
It was a little weird, just like, playing a character with my voice. It's very odd the times that I do end up playing that. but but yeah, I did play it a little bit. I cheat because I know how the game works.
Wow.
So, I'm gonna know who the demon is.
Oh my god. Of
But it
course.
was really fun. And my favorite thing was in some of the streams, like, some friends sent me some of the streams that people were playing, watching people trying to figure out the game.
Yeah.
So, I'm walking around with these little letting strips, like, I don't know what's happening, but I'm gonna. It was a lot of fun watching other people play. If I played it, it was really fun to play. And I got to hear some of my friends, also in the game, and they all just killed it. It was
Yeah.
so good. Yeah, it's a lot of fun to play.
Yeah, it
Mhm,
was so good. I really enjoyed it, and everybody did. And I'm just excited if he gets to make another game, maybe something different. I'm just excited to see what happens next. If there's another game coming out or something,
mhm,
that'd be something cool. But you have done so much of voice acting in so many games, played so many different characters. But you were raised in a military family, and was there ever a
mhm.
point in time like, okay, maybe you want to join or go towards military? Was there ever a thing like that in your head?
Yeah, yeah, absolutely, and I did. Everybody in my family was in the military at some point, and I thought that's what I had to do.
Mhm.
So I signed up for officer candidacy school and stuff like that, and I did all that. But there was always a part of me that was like, you have problems with authority. Maybe this is not a great idea. And it wasn't. So I ended up leaving the idea of the military behind. I respect everyone who has ever done it, and just because I didn't stick with it, doesn't mean I don't respect it, right? But
Mhm.
I went the totally opposite direction after that, though.
Yeah.
And I embraced classical singing and opera.
Yeah.
So I studied opera in college, to offset the other stuff, I guess.
To be honest, I
And
actually
that
have
was a lot of fun too.
heard some of your songs, which is very cool, and like you sound so great. And I was like, wow, that's so amazing. And I know singing is something that I know you tweeted out some singings and stuff, some songs here and there. It's funny to hear
Goofball,
it.
yeah.
But no, I mean that's so cool because you have a very amazing voice. That texture is amazing. So like,
Thank
is
you.
that a thing that you like pursue, or is it like just a thing that you do as a hobby or something like that, or you still want to go further with it?
The singing?
Yeah.
Um, yeah, it's one of those things that that I have to do. I don't know if you ever have anything like that, but it's just one of those things where it's like if I'm having a bad day, if I'm stressed out and I sing, it just makes me feel better. It's a great release, you know, kind of
Mhm.
like, I don't know, screaming into a pillow or something, I don't know. But
I mean, I
you ever do
understand
that?
that feeling. I for you it's singing,
It's
for
fun.
me it's dancing. I love dancing, so
There you go.
that's what I have.
Nice. Yes. So yeah, it's one of those things where it's just like a great release for me. And so if anything ever comes out where I'm singing, it's usually because I was just like, I need to just get some stuff off my chest right
Mm.
now. So yeah, it's one of those things where I have to sing. And I've always considered myself a singer more so than an actress. Like the acting thing is new for me. So yeah, it's so interesting when people call me an actress and they'll say, you know, actor Melissa Medina or whatever, and I'm like, where?
Who? You
So
sure? Are you
still
talking
getting
to
used
me?
to it. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, no. To be honest,
Mhm,
you've done some incredible work, and in especially in games, and I feel like that's great because you've done so many games, and I've known some of those games, I've played some of those games, and so how did
mhm.
that idea came upon? Like, okay, maybe voice acting, let's try it. How did that come to mind?
Um, long story short, I worked in IT for a long time, probably like 10 years.
Wow.
And I worked for a major tech company. We're not going to say names. And it was just one of those cultures where you live it and eat it and breathe it. And you know, I just didn't like it. I was stressed out all the time, and I realized at some point that like I hadn't taken a vacation in 5 years or something like that. So
Jesus.
I saved up a bunch of money and I quit. And I was like, you know what? I'm just gonna take some time, figure out what I'm gonna do next, and which is not advised, by the way. That's a terrible thing to do. Um, but while I was doing that, I was living in Seattle, and I just picked up a bunch of audiobooks. And I picked up I think it was a Stephen King's Dark Tower book, and the audiobook narrator was so good. I mean, so good. And I was like, "Is this a job? Because this guy is amazing." And I looked it up, and sure enough, like people get paid to read books. What? So I I dove in full board because I'm not capable of doing anything halfway. So I dove into it, took a bunch of classes, watched a bunch of videos, and got into narrating audiobooks. That was the first thing I did.
Wow.
Again, don't recommend that either, because it's a marathon, you know, like doing video games, doing animation, that's a sprint, right? And it's
Mhm.
it's very quick burst things and you get done. But audiobooks, you know, you're doing a 9-hour
Wow.
audiobook and it takes about 3 times the finished amount of time. So if you have a 9-hour audiobook, it took, you know, 27, 30, 40 hours to make. So
Jesus. Yeah, that
yeah,
sounds a lot.
that was not smart on my part, but, with the audiobooks came, you know, meeting other voice actors, and then I hopped on Twitter, and I found a bunch of game developers, and I thought, "Oh, I understand game developers. I was in IT for so many years, you know, like,
Yeah,
I get, like, the analytical mindset, how very focused they like, laser focused
very
a lot of
much.
folks are in the game dev world, and I was like, "I get you. I get you." So I started talking to developers, and they was like, "Hey, do you wanna be in my game?" And I said, "Yeah, sure, I'll try it." And I never looked back, you know, actually, Mortuary Assistant was not the first video game, but one of the first video games that I ever did. Yeah,
Wow.
so he kinda took a chance on me because he was like, I mean, yeah, I've heard some of their stuff, and I had done, you know, like, I think I did, Mech Warrior and Candyland and a couple of other things, so he was probably just like, "I don't know, let's try it and see what happens." But yeah, so ever since then, I've just been like a really big proponent of game development, indie dev especially,
Yeah.
because they take risks, you know, they're doing crazy stuff like Darkstone did for Mortuary Assistant, and,
Yeah.
they push the envelope, which I think is really cool and really necessary, so,
That's
Yeah,
true.
I'm constantly talking to game devs and now game writers also. I just try to vary like as many people as I can to talk to because we're all creative folks. So yeah.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, you're right. Like indie games, I love indie games, and there's so many games that I love more. The indie games I love more than the blockbuster bigger games. It's just
Mm-hmm.
something that I just really enjoy because of this unique storytelling and the unique art style, and everything is so different. And so I love that a lot. And
Yeah.
listening to a character that is very different. It's at some point. I just love that. So indie developers are doing so much, and sometimes they are you know the game of like kind of the year, like, oh, this game, it was made by an indie developer, an indie studio, and did so
Mm-hmm.
much better than like the bigger game that came out. It's so amazing. So I love that you always are
Yeah.
more focused on indie developers, and that's so cool because I know some of the games, like I know one of the games is Selaco that's coming out. And so
Hey, Sulaco.
I'm super
Yeah.
excited. But I played the demo and it was so fun to play it because I remember the old school kind of shooting games like that, and so I
The
enjoyed it
Doom
so much. The
style.
Doom style, yeah.
Yeah.
So I just loved it so much. I played the demo and I'm super excited for that. So cannot wait for that game to come out and experience
You
what that
know,
game is like.
I don't hear people talk about Sulaco to me anyway. I know they do. Sulaco has a great community. I
Yeah,
know that. And
yeah.
people who are all about not just the game, but the game engine and, all that stuff that they're playing around with. But Sulaco was really fun. I
Yeah.
got to do my favorite thing about Sulaco was, like I really love being playable characters because I love effort sounds. So I like making gross like noises and stuff like that. So Sulaco has plenty of those.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. Sulaco has a lot of those, and I mean, hey, that's great. Like,
Mhm,
it's an interesting game, and especially with a game that you have to do some of these sounds. Is it like
mhm,
like I know you just said mentioned like it's fun to do those. Do you like prefer doing
mhm.
those like more so in video games or in the career that you have so far? Do you prefer doing those a lot more?
Like the heavy
The
effort
heavy
sound
effort
type
sounds,
things.
yeah.
I love the yeah, yeah, for sure. I mean, it's really great to play like a really pretty, beautiful character, and I love those too. But anytime I can be like, "Ugh," or like just make disgusting sounds, I will hop on that. Like, and I think most voice actors are probably the same. Maybe there's probably some that are not, but especially as a feminine sounding person to get to do that
Mhm.
to get to be tough or gross or weird or whatever, I'm all about it.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
That's pretty cool. But
Mhm.
voice acting is so interesting. And at one point in time, because I played so many games, and one of the game was that inspired me so much and changed my mind so much was The Last of Us, and it was such an incredible game, and the voice acting and everything was so great.
Mhm.
And because of it, and I've watched it so many times at this point, I know the game. Like I know the moments. Oh, this happens here. So I
Mhm.
loved it so much that I was like, oh, what if voice acting could be a fun thing to do? And so I was like
Yeah.
doing some, not even classes, but just like some short courses here and there. But then I realized that I don't think so. I'm doing it for the right reasons. And so I
What do
thought
you
like,
mean?
I mean, I thought like, I always saw the flashy things like, hey, you get to be part of these games and people get to know you and stuff
Sure.
like that. I'm like, yeah, good job, visioning that instead of working as an actor and being acting and stuff like that. And yeah, sure, you vision about like how do you get fame and everything, but yeah. So I quickly
Mhm.
realized that voice acting requires you to act, so you need to learn how to act and do those things and have a interest in that more so than just
Yeah.
get to video games. So I quickly decided to, hey, let's not do that. And instead of, I decided to, I love voice actors so much, so I thought like, hey, what if I could talk to voice actors and get their story and get to know their story and get to share that. So
Oh.
that's what I've been doing since last year, and I'm super grateful to
Look at
have
you
you.
being smart.
Well, I
No,
decided to
that's
try it
great.
out. So it's working out so far.
Yeah.
Okay, I guess.
Well, What's interesting about that you mentioned is, everybody gets into whatever they're into for different reasons, right?
Yeah.
And it's the same with voice acting. Some of us get into it for the fame, and
Mhm.
hey, if that's your thing, go for it. There's plenty of opportunity for that.
Yeah.
And then some people get into it for the craft. Some people get into it for a hobby. And I think it's really cool that you can have all of these different avenues, even within voice acting,
Yeah.
and they have like, the terms that say like the working man's actor or whatever. And that's kind of what I feel. That's how I identify for sure. I'm definitely not a fame person. I mean, it's happened. When I first started, I was like, I'm gonna do voice acting, but I'm not gonna get famous. I'm just gonna do the voice acting part. Little did I know, you can't opt out of the fame or anything like that. It comes to you whether you want it or not, right?
Yeah.
But I've always been very shy. It doesn't seem like it, but I am. And so I'm very much like a "don't look at me" kind of person,
Uh-huh.
and I've been very uncomfortable with some of the attention, but I think some people like me, I love getting in the booth every day. I love the fact that I do not just video games, but animation and commercials and TV promos and movie trailers and all kinds of stuff that I get to do. And some people just are totally happy with just the working part,
Yeah.
you know? And so I think it's cool that you can kind of find your space within voice acting to figure out what it is you really want to do and what you love to do, because some people I've seen some colleagues of mine that do anime they do conventions and stuff. And the way that they engage with their fans is so cool. And
Yeah.
I'm just like, I could never do that in a million years. I'm just so awkward. So it's really cool to see people like find their skill sets and stuff. And
Yeah.
for you, this must be an interesting exercise to kind of talk to various actors and get their opinions on stuff, huh?
I guess so. I mean, everybody is like that they do so great job, and like I'm like, yeah, you guys are professionals. I'm just here just trying to get something from you and just gonna move away and you're gonna do your professionalism. So like I'm just going and enjoying the ride, I guess, at
Mhm.
this point. But it
Yeah.
it's just a fun thing, and I really enjoy that anybody who is able to get some time from their schedule and give it to me. So that means a lot. So that I just want to thank you again for doing that. And you've done, as I mentioned, you've done commercials, you've done animations and stuff. So this acting world, did you ever thought that you would be able to be where you are? After, ever since you decided to, oh, let's go this route, did you ever think that you'll be in this place that you ever thought about
Absolutely
that?
not. I was so not prepared. Um, when I left my other job, I thought, I'm gonna try this, and if I'm not, making money, or like at least breaking even or something like that, then I'll just give it up and I'll go back and do some more IT stuff or whatever. I jumped in expecting to fail, which is fine. You have a plan B and
Yeah.
stuff, which is great for preparation. I did not have a plan though for succeeding. So
That was
once I
not in my
started like,
books. What is this?
no, not at all. I was like, well, I don't know, we'll figure it out, I guess. But that was something that I should have done as well, was like come up with a plan for success as well. And like I wasn't prepared for attention. I wasn't
Mhm.
prepared for fans. I wasn't ready for any of that. um so yeah, so I think I never really expected anything of it. I just kind of wanted to, I don't know, go play around with acting. And for me, like acting is kind of a therapeutic thing.
Mhm.
Being raised in a military family, you're taught to be very stoic,
Yeah.
unaffected, very tough. And so being a voice actor allows me to experiment safely with different emotions and different feelings and stuff like that, which has been really nice. So even if I don't succeed, at the very least I got, something out of it, you
Mhm.
know?
Yeah, definitely. I
Yeah.
mean, you deciding to leave the IT route and go in this way and able to succeed in such a way is great. It's amazing because I sort of did the same. I was
Yeah.
I joined an IT company in a completely different role. I was in sales in an IT company. It was very weird,
Mhm.
but I was in sales, and so but I was already making videos and editing and stuff like that. So I just and I could not live in that space at all. I was not able to understand what's happening. So I, decided to, I thought like, I cannot leave what I'm doing because I'm enjoying what I was doing before. I cannot leave that
Mhm,
behind. I felt like I was leaving it behind and I was not ready to leave it
mhm,
behind. And so I decided to leave and continue this. And so I always go back and take a look on that decision. I feel like that's the biggest decision I've made, and I'm so happy with that I made that decision.
yeah,
And so it's just a big step. I feel like, if I always believe, like, if you're not having fun, there's no point of doing it. That
yes.
that's always been a thing. Like, regardless of what it is, like, I initially at that time I thought like, oh my god, if I quit, what will happen? Will I be able to earn money
Mhm,
and stuff? So that's always a doubt in the
yep,
head. But I think once you take the step, I think you will figure it out. I think that's the thing that I've learned. And I super I feel like the way you did it is also somewhat similar to mine, where you decided
mhm.
to go in this route. And you're succeeding. You're doing such great work, and you're able to get some great work. And we have you're such a great community as well. So this is great. And I love the fact that you've been in this position at this point, and you're getting more projects as well.
Yeah, I know. There's so many that I can't talk about, and it's terrible. But yeah, it's a lot of fun, and honestly, the voice acting community, and not just the voice acting community, but all of it, the indie dev, game writers, casting directors, fans too, like, everybody is just, I don't know, the way they come together is really cool, and
Yeah.
especially now, like, with things about striking and all that stuff, everybody's kind of coming together and sticking together in a way
Yeah.
that I don't think they have before, or
Yeah.
not very often. So it's really cool that everybody seems to kinda be supporting each other on that. I'm like, "Yes, finally."
Yes, we did it.
Yeah.
But with acting comes, like, I know, there's the people opinions of you, like, or did you do good? Or sometimes, like, internet people, they're like, oh yeah, I've done this, blah
Uh-huh.
blah blah. Did you does people opinions of others, does it get to you? Is it like does it ever affect you, or you're okay with not taking those in so much?
Mm, I it's hard. I feel like I can sit here and say, like, "No, it doesn't affect me," but, so every now and then it does. I think, we're human,
Yeah.
and people go on the internet and they say terrible things, because they expect that we're not gonna read it. But sometimes we do. And yeah, I think though for me, like, I when I worked in IT, I did, like, product management and development stuff,
Mm.
but at the very beginning of my IT career, I did tech support. And I got very used to being yelled at
Oh.
and talked down to and all of that stuff. So, like, when people say mean things on the internet, I kinda just go like, "Oh, it's just," I go into that mindset, just like, shrug it off. And also, people are totally entitled to their opinions,
Mhm.
but unless you're doing what I'm doing,
Yeah.
I don't really care. Like, "Can you do this?" "No, I didn't think so." So what do I care what you think? It's like
Yeah.
it's
What you
yeah.
think I care, but no.
No, I kinda don't.
Yeah.
But every now and then, something will stick with me, and it's usually the stuff where I feel like I didn't do my best.
Mm.
Or, sometimes you get in a session and, you're just not in it, or, you don't mesh well with a director or something. Um, but yeah, for the most part, no, not too much, not too much.
Yeah.
I think age comes into play too. Like, if you're younger and you don't know yourself yet, you really do need to take precautions for your own, like, mental health,
Mhm.
you know? But, having a full career before doing voice acting, I think helped me not be as affected,
Yeah, looks like
luckily.
looks like I got a few years on that to develop what you have, because that feels like a long distance. But that's great. I know, like, it's hard sometimes to deal with that kind of negative, or just opinions of people, like,
Mhm,
different than what you're expecting. Because even I had some of those instances and some of those moments which initially was like, oh, so cruel to me, and then
mhm,
eventually later on, it got better. But with any project that you get to do, like you just mentioned, like sometimes it might be hard to be present in that, or like be able to
Mhm.
connect with the character, or whatnot. So do you ever feel like that anxiety coming through, going through in any of the projects, or you're able to build it up well?
Okay, so here's the thing. Sometimes I feel like the Hulk, when he's like, my secret is I'm always angry, right? My secret is I'm always anxious and I'm always nervous. And I just deal with it.
Wow.
Yeah, no, I'm constantly I have really bad stage fright. Really bad. I always have. Even when I did opera, like I tell this story sometimes where uh I went to the Sydney Opera House and we did a performance there at the Sydney Opera House. And I was so nervous. I just, you practice for 40 hours a week. You get used to practicing. You're very well prepared, but you're not prepared for the psychological impact of a whole thing full of people, right? So I saw the audience, I saw things happening backstage, and I threw up
Oh,
at the Sydney Opera House from stress, from nerves,
oh
and
man.
it was about a couple of minutes before I had to go on. So I'm there like behind stage and I'm just "Ugh," and then like somebody was like, Did she really just puke right now?" And I was like, "I gotta go," and like go on stage. Um so it just never went away. I've performed in many different countries for thousands of people or millions of people or whatever, and it's just never gone away.
Wow.
But I think you build skills to kind of like, work through it.
Mhm.
For me, that's sort of like half disassociating a little bit where I'm like, I just like halfway disassociate from the nerves and I leave them where they are because I can't fix them.
Mhm.
But I can like hyper focus on what it is I'm doing and like block everything else out. And that tends to help. Yeah.
That's great. That actually feel like that takes time, because I, especially me, I'm very anxious to do anything new, to be honest. When I started this, when I started recording or talking to voice actors, I would be super anxious every 5 minutes before the thing they were about to join. I was like, oh my god,
Sure.
I can I will they like me? Will I speak well? Do I know English? And there's like a lot of things going on in my head at that time. And I was like, how will I say,
Uh-huh.
how will I talk? And it happens even till this day, where I would be anxious 5 minutes before the call. And if anybody, like when you joined in, and when you were click on ask to join, and the message pops in
Uh-huh.
like, oh, this person coming in, I'm like, oh gosh, they're already here. So that all of this happens in my head. Like, yeah, at one point I was like going to deny, and I was like, no, you're supposed to admit and not deny.
Don't
So
deny. Yeah.
so yeah, that's a lot of those things happen. So as you said, like blocking and hyper focusing, I think that's very hard, at least for me to do. But I think over time, I believe it develops, I think, on its own. So
Mhm.
I think again, for me, it's going to take a long time for me. But I think and anxious being anxious, I think, is a normal thing. I know somebody said that
Mhm.
being anxious is sometimes can also be that you're excited about something, and
Yeah.
that can help you out, but you just don't realize it. So I think being anxious is also a good thing. So I've tried to
Yes.
think in that direction as well, where no, it's not a bad thing, it's actually a good thing, because I'm excited to do this and to talk to someone. So that has helped a little bit.
Yeah. You're feeling something,
Yeah.
and I mean, these days, it's hard
Yeah.
psychologically. So if you're feeling things, even if it's just discomfort, at least you're feeling things,
Yeah.
and that's important and necessary and really good because you don't. I think you probably agree. Like you don't improve if you're sitting around being comfortable all the time.
Oh
You're
yeah,
just never gonna
it's never gonna
learn
happen.
anything new or improve if you don't get uncomfortable. So get comfortable with being uncomfortable, right?
Yeah, that's true. That's very true.
Mhm.
But I one of my friends actually brought this tweet to me of you saying that, okay, somebody at the airport recognized you from Mortuary Assistant.
Yes.
So so what so what characters do people recognize you from mostly? Is it Mortuary Assistant, or is it some other things as well?
None. No. That's the first time that I've ever been recognized. I was
Wow.
just sitting at the airport and I got a phone call and I just, just answered it real quick because I was waiting and my flight was delayed. And this guy just kept staring at me and I'm like,
What
stop
is wrong
staring.
with you?
Um, and when I got off the phone, he approached me and I was like, oh God.
It's one of those
And then he
again.
was like, yeah, he's like, this is gonna sound weird, but do, do you do video games? And I was like, yeah, why? And then he brought up, Mortuary. He's like, I just streamed Mortuary Assistant and you sound like Rebecca. And I'm like, that's weird because I am
Oh
Rebecca.
my god.
Yeah, it was so weird. And yeah, it was just out of the blue. Um, every now and then I get somebody recognizing me for Aliens Fireteam
Oh
because
wow.
my character in Aliens Fireteam is so chatty, and so yelly.
Yeah.
And, yeah, so I get some folks doing that, and I think once I went to play Aliens Fireteam, and I hopped on chat, and I started, like, giving orders, like, in between my character giving orders, and they're like, "This character won't shut up," and I'm like, "I know!" And, like and they're like, "Wait, what? Oh my god, it's you!" And that's always a blast to just, like,
Oh
mess with
wow.
people a little bit.
Do you kind of do
I'm
that?
terrible at that game too, by the way.
I'm
Yeah.
no better at all. But what was that like working with that game? I know that game was very cool to play. So how was that like?
Oh my gosh. It was fantastic. I have to say, like, the people that were involved in that game are literally some of the best human beings that I've
Wow.
ever met or gotten the chance to work with. I mean, there's a couple of folks that do like the casting, like a Help Network, Julia
Mhm.
Bianca Sheffield, just fantastic person. And the director as well. I mean, he's been fantastic to work with and like, I don't know, every now and then you meet someone and they just get you,
Mhm.
you know?
Yeah.
So yeah, his name's Dara O'Farrell and, might be Irish, and, he's a really awesome person, and honestly, I've ended up working with him multiple times after Aliens Fireteam as
Oh
well.
wow.
So, the funny thing about Aliens Fireteam was I didn't have the self-esteem to audition for that role. Um, I auditioned for background characters in that
Okay.
game, because I didn't think that I would be picked for I have a weird voice and, like, I don't know, I just talked myself out of it, and then, so I did audition for some background characters, and then they came back and said, "Actually, can you audition for this character?" Herrera was ended up being my character. So they asked me to audition, and I did, and they were like, "That's it."
Wow.
And, the folks at Cold Iron, who's the developer of Aliens Fireteam, again, some of the most awesome human beings, super diverse team. They all actually love the IP because, not everybody that works on an IP loves it, right?
Yeah.
But they do. They care. So it was really cool to just and I've always been a fan of Aliens since
Me too.
forever.
Forever.
Like, I wanted to be Ripley when I was a kid. Um so yeah, so it was really cool working with them, and then I went on to work with the director, Dara O'Farrell, for multiple other games like Star Wars, Monkey Island,
Okay.
some other stuff that I can't say. So yeah, it's been it's been
I
really
see.
cool, like, when you meet your people and you but the cool thing is it's not one of those things where it's like, "Oh, I know Melissa, I'm gonna cast them," or whatever.
Mhm.
It's completely unexpected where I won't even know because the casting director is different from the director,
Yeah.
most of the time. And so I don't even know until I get into the session and I'm like, "It's you! I've worked with you
I
before!
know
Oh
you.
my god!"
I've seen you
Yeah,
somewhere, I
so
think.
yeah, yeah. So it's really cool to when you meet people because the industry is smaller than you think it is, you know?
Yeah, that's right.
So if you don't get along with people, you'll also run into them again. So you really gotta be nice. Gotta be nice.
Crap, you gotta be
But yeah,
nice in this
so
world. Yeah.
I know, it's terrible. I mean, you don't have to, but it's probably best. But yeah, yeah, so that whole thing with aliens really, it kinda helped launch me, and since then, it's been really cool to talk to people also about, like, representation and
Mhm.
stuff, you know?
Yeah.
Like, the cool thing about working with Cold Iron and on Aliens as well was, like, a lot of times you get some stereotypes, right? Where you get, like, the badass Latina or whatever,
Yeah.
and that's cool. But I kinda came in and as you can tell, like, I'm kind of a goofball, right? And I was like, "Can I just, like, I don't know, crack some jokes or something?" Because like, like, coming from a military family, I know that, like, humor is a great way to diffuse, like, really terrible situations.
Yeah.
So, most of the military folks I know have great senses of humor, really dark senses of humor, but great senses of humor. So, I started cracking jokes, and they just let me do that. Like, they let me move this character from what could have been a cliche into something unique and something that's me, you know? And I think more and more people are doing that now.
Mhm.
And,
Yeah.
I'm lucky to be in a situation where I get to make characters my own. I mean, I kinda do it anyway, but, like, if they don't want me to, I won't. But
Yeah.
most of the time, people are just kinda like, "Do your thing," and I go, "Cool."
Okay, now you're gonna get
Um,
the weird part of me or something like that.
absolutely. Like, it's so funny. Like, I mean, people see me on Twitter and I'm a goofball there. In real life, I'm actually pretty stoic, very laid back, and they're just like, "Where does the weirdness come out?" And I'm like, When they get used to you, you'll be annoyed, I promise." So,
Oh, man.
yeah, yeah, it's been a crazy ride, but also my biggest thing too is to talk to other voice actors, people like you who are interested in voice acting and like uh encourage jumping in and playing around with it because it's a very accessible, you know, industry if
Yeah.
you are committed, if you take classes, if you jump in and stuff, like you really can do it.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
mean it's a very interesting place to be honest, because a lot of the times I would be there's a lot of scenes that I love so much, and I'm a big fan of dramatic scenes. So whenever there's a dramatic scene, if I'm playing that game, I see the dramatic scene, I would see it so over and over again. I see people's reactions to it so weirdly, and so I would remember those lines, and I would be like, oh, what if I play that character and I'm literally be roaming around in this very room and be like, saying those lines and that particular voice. I'm like, what am I
Awesome.
doing? I should be working. So, so that happens quite a
Uh-huh.
lot. And so yeah,
Mhm.
it's fun to do it in the room without anybody else. So that's the safe place I'm gonna be, I guess.
Yes, exactly.
But
Exactly.
Aliens Fireteam Elite is like Aliens itself is such a big franchise, and I love that franchise, and I want that franchise to
Mhm.
get better and get just more. And so there was even the Alien Isolation game that I really love. But
Yes.
speaking of like popular franchises, you were also a part of Star
Mhm,
Wars, The Old Republic.
mhm.
And so that was a very interesting character, Heta Cole. So how did you get that role? Like that was a because I've seen the scenes. I unfortunately couldn't play that part
Mhm,
of it because I have not played that far. But I've seen the
mhm.
scenes and I was like, wow, that's pretty cool. Like intense characters. How did you get that get booked?
It was some of the same folks that worked on Aliens, and they were like, we're actually updating the game with some new voice acting because I think at the beginning they kind of used the same voice actors for like tons of different characters,
Hmm.
and the person who originally voiced had a fantastic, great, and I think they did a lot of different roles in that game.
Yeah.
But I think with the updates, they kind of said, okay, we kind of want to diversify the cast a little bit. And when when I was working on Aliens Fireteam, I had mentioned like that I ended up playing a lot of villains, like a lot. And we laugh a lot in the sessions. So I was I was laughing while we were doing Aliens Fireteam, and they kind of said like, you kind of have like a resting evil laugh, and I'm like, yeah, I know. So they kind of said like, I can see why you do villains, and I'm like, dude, any villain you have, I'm on it. And they're like, well, actually, I mean, we kind of have this thing that we're looking for a voice for Hita Cole, but we need somebody who is, tough, militaristic, authoritative, the kind of person who just kind of kicks down the door and says like, "This is my house,"
Mhm.
and I was like, "I got you.
Like, I think that's me.
I can do that." That's what I always wanted to do. Um, so yeah, so they kind of let me go in and just kind of be Hedda, and it's cool because she's just such a badass
Oh,
character.
yeah.
I mean, yeah, yeah. You'll see in some of her cutscenes and stuff where you're just like, okay, chill. She has zero chill, none.
Yeah.
Um,
I've
but
seen that
I like
cutscene.
playing characters like that.
That's pretty cool. So villain is the way to go for you in terms of playing any characters.
Yeah. Yeah, I feel like I have, I'm either the playable character or a villain most times.
Mhm.
Villain or like sexy villain or something, but yeah, but I do have a couple roles where I get to break type and I play a lot of also like adorable weirdos cuz I am one. And yeah, so I get to like let my freak flag fly a little bit for some of those characters and that's a nice break from like, you know, I don't know.
Nope.
Like the step on me type of characters that I play often, so
I see what those
yeah,
characters.
yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, yeah, a lot of that.
Wow.
Don't read the comment section. It's
But
weird.
it's so cool that with all the characters that you got to play, is there a kind of a character or the team that you worked with that you enjoyed the most, or maybe you can share some kind of a story that you think was the most memorable out of them all.
Oh my gosh. Um, there's there's different moods, it's hard because, like, for Mortuary Assistant, I work by myself.
Hmm.
For a lot of things, I end up working by myself. Um I think, uh, there's a game that I cannot see the name of right now that I did recently, like, in the past week or 2,
Oh, wow.
and, it's another one of those things where you just connect with everyone, and they had the writers on the line, great, fantastic, female director, which you don't see very often,
Hmm.
um, and, I mean, I worked on that game for so long, and it's almost out. It's coming out in September, and I'm
Ooh.
very excited about it. But, yeah, there are some sessions where you just have fun, and you go and you do these characters, and, like, sometimes you'll even just forget that you have work to do. So, like, there's one team in particular, I'm nervous about I don't know if I can say the name because everybody's gonna know the game. So, but there's a team that I worked with where we would do a couple lines and then we would stop and they would talk about their cat and then like we would go on and then I'd talk about my dog or whatever and I'd be like, "I'm hungry. What do you want for lunch?" And we would talk about like tacos or whatever, and like it's stuff like that that you realize like yes, this is a job, but it's also about the people, and the
Mm,
people make it so much better. Because if you just
yeah.
go in and you treat it like, "I'm gonna read my lines and blah, blah, blah," when it comes out, it just becomes very mechanical.
Hmm. Yeah.
But when you have, like, that good chemistry with other people, it you make magic, and it's really cool.
Yeah, yeah, that's right. I mean,
Yeah.
I've seen some of the like. I always try to see some behind the scenes of some of the voice acting in some of the games, and it's interesting to see how much like fun and energy that they have with each other, whether it's the
Yeah.
director or the sometimes if there's a performance capture, so the DPs and everybody. So it's just so cool to
Yep.
see how everybody is so much enjoying and then performing so well that it's so real. So it's crazy to see how that all that works. So everything that you
Yeah.
have done overall so far has been so incredible because of that. So kudos to you to do all these different characters and to be able to do
Thanks.
all these different roles. So it's amazing to see you in these games. And as I said, you have a lot of games that you can't talk about. So I'm super excited that
Mm,
when those games come out
yes.
and see what that game is.
Me too. I have to I'm looking over here because I have a list that I keep of, like, games that aren't out yet that I'm not allowed to talk about, and so I keep a list handy because I'm terrified of slipping up and saying the name of a game or something like that, but, there have been a few things, like, there's some trailers that have come out recently, that my voice is in,
Oh
that
yeah.
people be like, "I swear I heard you in that trailer," and I'm like, "Did you?
Did
Did
you?
you though?"
I
Um,
I don't think so. But you have to maybe listen to it more once more. Can't confirm or deny.
yeah. Right? But that's what's great about, like, some of the indie games that I get to work on, like, one of the ones that I recorded recently was Billy Bust Up, which is a has a huge following on Twitter.
Yeah.
It's like a musical platformer game, and I get to play an evil pirate cat. Um, and there's, some indie animation is a big thing, so,
Oh
like,
yeah.
Wild Card is one that is currently recording that I get to play, just what is it? Ice Queen lawyer. So
Oof.
you can see the trend, right? But yeah, it's cool. So that with the indie stuff, like I get to talk about it and I can name names, and that's awesome. And it's a little bit of a relief from the other stuff that I'm not allowed to talk about. So
Wow,
yeah,
that's great. I mean, I hope to see whenever that game comes out. I'm excited for this, and in the end, I just want to say thank you for taking the time, for joining, and for talking about all these characters that you've been a part of. And I had a great time talking to you, and it's so fun to know that your story in some ways was a little bit similar. So I'm happy that I'm going the right way, I
yeah,
guess. So
absolutely.
thank you again so much for being here. I really really appreciate it, and it was great.
Thank you so much. And thank you for watching. Appreciate it.